Alright, if you clicked on this video, you're most likely aware that over the last 10 years, the Beatles have released several remixed versions of some of their albums. Most of these have been 50th anniversary versions of their albums, remixed by Giles Martin, son of Beatles producer George Martin. And overall, I've been very pleased with the sound. I think it sounds a lot better than the mixes that we had previous to this. So why might some people prefer new mixes? Well, when the Beatles first started recording music in the 60s, music was recorded in mono, meaning all the sounds came out of one speaker. So in the 1960s, stereo mixes, where the sounds come out of two speakers, was a new technology. It wasn't yet perfected. And so stereo mixes of music from the 60s and early 70s sometimes sounded kind of weird, like you'd hear the drums maybe only in the right speaker, and you'd hear the vocals maybe only in the left speaker, and there wasn't a nice balance of instruments and vocals in both speakers. And so if you were listening to that music on a stereo with two speakers, or say in a pair of headphones, it sounded really annoying. And so these new mixes create a better sounding stereo mix of Beatles music. Now in 2009, the Beatles catalog was released as remastered versions of their music, but a remaster isn't a remix. To put it very simply, basically a remaster is changing the volume so that it's all a bit more balanced, a bit more loud when it comes to the volume. That's not all that goes into remastering, but that's a simplified version of it. Whereas a remix, you go to all the different recordings of the instruments and of the vocals, and you make a really nice stereo mix of it. So in 2015, they started off with the album One, which is all the Beatles' #1 songs. Then in 2017, we got a remixed album of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. 2018, we got a remixed album of the White Album. 2019, we got a remix of Abbey Road. 2021, we got a remix of Let It Be, which was supposed to be in 2020 because that was the 50th anniversary. But because of COVID, things got delayed. Then in 2022, we got a remix of Revolver. And then in 2023, we got a remix of the best of 1962 to 1966 and the best of 1967 to 1970. And now that it's 2025, people are speculating what's going to be the next remix. Is it going to be a 60th anniversary of Rubber Soul? Is it going to be a 30th anniversary of the anthology albums with the 3 new Beatles songs on it? Free as a Bird, Real Love, and Now and Then? Or what? Don't know. But with all the later Beatles albums from 1966 to 1970 being remixed, there's one album that hasn't been remixed yet, and that's Magical Mystery Tour. Where is the new remix of that? Why haven't they done that yet, some people wonder. Well, I'm not sure, but we haven't gotten one yet. But every song on Magical Mystery Tour and from that era have been remixed. They're just on different compilation albums. So all the songs from the album and all of the officially released bonus songs from that era have been remixed. And I'm going to show you where to find all the songs so that you can make your own remix album. 11 of the songs are really easy to get. 4 of the songs are a bit more tricky, so I'm going to start with the easiest songs. And the first place to go looking is the Beatles' 1967 to 1970 50th anniversary album that was released in 2023. This has got 7 songs from Magical Mystery Tour on it, so that's almost half of what you need right there. It's got Magical Mystery Tour, it's got The Fool on the Hill, it's got I Am The Walrus, it's got Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, and Penny Lane, and All You Need Is Love. However, the mix of I Am The Walrus on that album isn't a great mix, but there are other options for it, which I'll get to at the end of this video. So this album is definitely one that you want to get. And then there are a couple other albums. The Sgt. Pepper's 50th anniversary that came out in 2017, that does have Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane on it, but they're the same mixes that are in the 1967 to 1970 albums, so you can use either one. The next sources are the 1 CD and the 1 Plus DVD, both of which came out in 2015. You don't want the 2000 version, the version that came out in 2000, and I think there might have been another version, a remastered version that came out in 2011. You don't want those versions. Those are just remasters. You want the remixed version, which came out in 2015. And the CD has Hello Goodbye, Penny Lane, and All You Need Is Love. And then you can find Strawberry Fields Forever on the 1 Plus DVD. However, again, these mixes are the same that you find on the 1967 to 1970 50th anniversary. So again, that's why I say that album is one that you definitely want. These other three, I'm sure any Beatles fan would probably want them in their collection, but just know that they're the same mixes. The only difference is that the volume of the songs might slightly be different, and the length of silence at the end of the songs might slightly be different by like 1 or 2 seconds. Nothing that's a huge deal. But the next album that you're definitely going to want is the Yellow Submarine song track, released in 1999. Now, this isn't the same as the 1969 soundtrack album, which only has 6 Beatles songs from the movie. The soundtrack album is also the one that was released on CD in 1987, and the remaster was released in 2009. You don't want those. You want the song track from 1999, and it was re-released in 2012, but from what I've read, the 1999 mix and the 2012 mix are the same mix. The only difference is the 1999 comes in a plastic case versus the 2012 version that comes in a cardboard sleeve. Anyway, the song track came out for the 30th anniversary of the Yellow Submarine movie and soundtrack album. And unlike the soundtrack album that only has 6 Beatles songs on it, the song track has 15 songs from the movie on it. And each of those songs was remixed. It wasn't remixed by Giles Martin, but it still sounds really good. So on this song track, there's 5 songs from the Magical Mystery Tour era, and those are Baby You're a Rich Man, All You Need Is Love, Only a Northern Song, All Together Now, and It's All Too Much. Now, All You Need Is Love is a different mix than you'll find on the 2015 One album and the 2023 1967 to 1970 album. So you can have a listen, decide which one you like better. But the other 4 songs, Baby You're a Rich Man, Only a Northern Song, All Together Now, and It's All Too Much, those all sound really great, and this is the only place where you can find those 4 songs in their remixed version. Alright, so that gets 10 songs right out of the way. The next one is found on the Free as a Bird single, which was released in 1995. This has 1 song on it that's there as a B-side, and the song is called Christmas Time Is Here Again. Now, this song was released in the Christmas of 1967 on their Fan Club Christmas album, but it was chopped up and heard only in pieces throughout the talking on the album. So the Free as a Bird single is the first and only time that the song was remixed and released in its completed form. And this is where the songs start to get a little bit tricky, because Christmas Time Is Here Again does need to be remastered because the volume is a little bit lower than the other remixed Magical Mystery Tour songs. So if you care about that, you can remaster songs in audio software. Okay, the 11 easy songs are out of the way. Now we're going to get to the 4 more tricky parts. Now, some of you may or may not know that the Magical Mystery Tour movie was released on DVD and Blu-ray in 2012. And for this 2012 release, the songs were remixed by Giles Martin, and they sound excellent. I think they sound every bit as good as the re-releases of Revolver, Pepper, White Album, Let It Be, and Abbey Road. They sound great. Unfortunately, they never released these songs on an album with these new mixes. There's 6 songs, which are from the original Magical Mystery Tour movie and Magical Mystery Tour EP, because in England it was an EP of 6 songs, whereas in the United States it was an album with 11 songs. Anyways, like I was saying, with this 2012 release, they never released a remixed Magical Mystery Tour album or EP. Now, the deluxe box set did come with a 6-song vinyl EP, but I've read that they were mono mixes that sound the same or worse than the 1967 mono EP. So this is where it gets tricky, because you have to rip some of the songs from the DVD, and there's some other edits that you need to make. But out of the 6 songs in this movie, you really only have to worry about getting 3 or 4 of them, depending on which version of I Am The Walrus that you want, which again, I'll talk about I Am The Walrus at the end of the video. But as for the song Magical Mystery Tour and Fool on the Hill, those are already on the 1967 to 1970 album, so they aren't the exact same mixes as these in this DVD, but they're similar enough and they both sound great. But from this DVD, you do need to get Flying, Blue Jay Way, and Your Mother Should Know. And like I said, this is where it gets a bit more tricky because you do need to do some more work to get the songs from a DVD or Blu-ray. And you can do that by either 1, finding software that can rip the music files from the DVD or Blu-ray, or 2, playing the DVD or Blu-ray and recording the songs to brand new music files, or 3, finding somebody on the internet who's already ripped the music files and then just get the files from them. And in talking about DVDs versus Blu-rays, are the Blu-ray songs better quality than the DVD songs? I don't know, but I've listened to both and I can't tell a difference. Although it is usually easier to rip files from a DVD than it is to rip files from a Blu-ray. So, just a piece of information there for you. So, once you've ripped the songs Flying, Blue Jay Way, and Your Mother Should Know, you'll notice something annoying, and that is sounds from the movie are at the beginning and the end of each song. And there's a way to fix this if you want, but it's going to require you to do some audio editing. Or you can just leave it as it is if you don't mind. I personally did mine, so I did some editing. And before I get into that, one more important thing. Don't be fooled by the songs listed in the bonus features, which are Your Mother Should Know and Blue Jay Way. And you don't need Fool on the Hill or Hello Goodbye, as we talked about earlier. But with Your Mother Should Know and Blue Jay Way, yes, it's true that these bonus feature songs don't have the movie sounds at the beginning or end of them, but the quality of these songs are very dull compared to the quality in the actual movie. So you don't want these to be your main songs. However, you will need these low-quality songs if you do want to edit out the movie sounds from the beginning and end of your good quality songs from the movie. So yes, go ahead and rip Your Mother Should Know and Blue Jay Way from the bonus features, because you might end up using the beginnings and ends of those songs, which is what I did. And also, before I start talking about audio editing, you may be able to avoid editing altogether and remove those movie sounds from your music files by finding some kind of AI software to do it for you. Because when I made my versions of these songs, it was back before AI had made all the advances that it's made today. So if you can find AI to do it, great, save yourself some trouble. But if you can't get AI to do it for you, then here's how I did it. Now, different editing softwares vary in how they look and how they function, but the principles are the same. So my example here, this screenshot that you're seeing, this is from when I edited Your Mother Should Know. But this is basically what you'll do to Flying and Blue Jay Way as well. So the green section is the good quality song ripped from the movie. The purple sections at the beginning and end are the bits I used from different sources to replace the parts where the movie sounds were. Now for me, the different sources for Blue Jay Way and Your Mother Should Know came from those bonus feature songs. And all I had to do for those was just raise the volume by a few decibels and adjust the left and right speaker panning just a little bit to match the songs from the movie. And then next, the gray sections between the green and purple sections that you see, those are called audio transitions or crossfades, which just blends the song files together for a certain length of time, making a smoother sounding edit rather than a jarring one. Now the length of time of each transition can be adjusted depending on what sounds best to you. In this example for Your Mother Should Know, my beginning transition was just a fraction of a second, which is why you can't really see it in this particular screenshot. And my end transition was about 3 seconds long. Now my sources for the beginning and end bits of Flying were different, because that song isn't in the bonus features. Now, I don't know a lot of technical musical terms, but the first 5 seconds of Flying sounds exactly the same as the second 5 seconds. So what I did is I just copied what I needed from that second 5 seconds of Flying, pasted it to replace the movie sounds at the beginning of the song, and connected the edit with an audio transition that was only a fraction of a second long. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It does in my mind, but I've been editing for a long time, so hopefully that makes sense to you. But my source for the end of the song Flying had to be from the 2009 stereo remaster of Flying, because the only versions you're going to find are the 1967 mix and the 2009 remaster of the 1967 mix. So with that, I just had to adjust the volume, adjust the pan a bit, but after connecting the edit with a nice long transition of like 19 seconds, it sounded good. So with those 3 more difficult songs out of the way, let's get to the last one, I Am The Walrus, which might be the most difficult or not, depending on what you like. So there's 4 different remixes of this song that I know of, all of which have their pros and cons. First, I'll talk about the mix that's on the 1967 to 1970 compilation that was released in 2023. So this mix would have been just fine if they hadn't screwed up the last 45 seconds of the song. In the last 45 seconds, it's like the music gets turned down almost all the way, and the sound effects get turned up really loud, so that's really all you can hear is those sound effects. And suddenly the song starts to sound more like Revolution No. 9 than it does I Am the Walrus. It's very different from the original song, and I didn't like it. The other 3 mixes are the Magical Mystery Tour DVD from 2012, like I mentioned earlier, the Love CD from 2006, and then the 4th mix you'll find on the Anthology DVD, which is the TV series from 1995 and 1996, but it wasn't released on DVD until 2003. Now, each of these mixes have sound from the movie at the beginning and the end of the songs, so if that bothers you, you'll have to do some editing like I showed you with the previous 3 songs. But the mix from the Magical Mystery Tour DVD is the easiest to fix, in my opinion, and it's also the mix I personally prefer out of all the mixes that have been made so far. But if you don't mind having only 4 keyboard counts at the beginning of I Am the Walrus instead of 6, and if you don't mind hearing a little bit of wind sound as the song fades out, then you don't even need to do any editing to fix the song. You've got it right there, because that's what's in the Magical Mystery Tour DVD. Or if you don't mind the changes that they made in the 2023 release of 1967 to 1970, then you've got the song right there and it's all good. But anyway, there you have it, 15 songs for your own remixed album of Magical Mystery Tour. Like I said, 11 of the songs are really easy to get, and 4 of them require some more work. But the sound quality is definitely worth it. So you can either do the editing like I did, or find a new AI program that can help you out, or find somebody who's already cleaned up the beginnings and endings of those songs. I would post my versions here on YouTube, but they'd immediately get blocked and taken down and I'd get in trouble, so I'm not going to do that. But hopefully they'll release a remixed Magical Mystery Tour like in 2027 for a 60th anniversary, or maybe they'll do it earlier, or maybe they won't do it for a long time. So until they do finally release it, this is the best way to get your own remixed version of Magical Mystery Tour. Hope you enjoyed the video and good luck to you.